Okay. Hello, Fiona.
Hi, hello.
How are you doing?
I am fine. Yeah, good.
All right. So we've got about 26 people watching currently. And
Okay.
I think we will be slowly getting a few more. And so welcome all of you who are watching on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining in to this flavor experience of wild IPA and Westcombe Cheddar, and as well as Duckett's Caerphilly, with food and drink expert, mostly drink. Is that right?
I guess more drink than food these days, although it goes between the two.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. Inspirational on both sides, I'd say, for me. And we're going to be talking about food matching, flavor matching, about wild IPA for sure, because this is the launch of this brand new beer for us. So all of you who are watching, feel free to crack open your bottle or can of wild IPA, and while I'll talk you through what it is as a quick introduction to it. And we will get cracking into talking about other food and drink experiences and flavors. So Wild IPA is a beer that the Wild Beer Company, Andrew and myself started the Wild Beer Company 8 years ago, and we set out to make beer differently and to discover flavor in beer that we didn't usually find, and it took us 8 years to figure out how to make this beer, and we're really pleased and proud of it. It has a robust character, but yet light and crisp enough to be able to have kind of in an everyday setting. But that robust character and balance was really built and crafted in a way that goes perfectly with food, and that's what we've intended, and we're going to see if it works tonight. But we have been testing it on many different cuisines with different chefs and restaurants, and finding we feel as though we hit the mark, right, the nail dead on the head. But let's see what all you guys think. So I've got a quick little video, and then we'll start chatting. So let me pull that one up, as well as just to say hi to David. Thanks for tasting along tonight. You're drinking Quantic, and Richard Simpson, whose lovely malt we use inside all of our beers. That's Simpson's Maltings. Thanks for joining in, Richard, and Rachel Baker. She's one of the masters of the packaging at Wild Beer Company, so she's responsible for actually getting the beer into the bottle or can in perfect condition. And I'd say you've done a really good job, Rachel. Thank you. David and Sam. Sam is in there saying hi, Fiona. Sam is Wild Beer Company's head brewer, and he's a big part of making this beer what it is today. And Rachel. So without further ado, let's get to this short little fun video about Wild IPA, and then as we have a little sip as well. Oh, there we go.
Okay. That looks so nice, doesn't it?
That was kind of a dream come true day, that one.
Yeah.
Just realized I've set my computer up just so you can see the draining table, draining board on my washing. That was a beautiful day doing that filming. I have always wanted to get out on a boat and go sea fishing, and we didn't do any of that, but we did get out, and it was as close to it as possible.
Whereabouts was it?
That was, oh no,
Which country? That would save you kind of.
Well, it was South Coast. There's only about an hour's and a half drive from here.
Okay.
There's the Dorset Coast.
Yeah.
Dorset Coast. So yes, yeah, for sure Dorset. But I was just trying to think of the exact place.
It was gorgeous, anyway.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was really amazing. Thank you so much to the Buccaneer and the crew down there who helped us do that. So so that was a quick introduction to Wild IPA, and as an introduction to you, Fiona, maybe if I could ask you just your I've read your work in The Guardian and different books and articles, and we've been involved in different beer and cheese tastings and in the past, in the last, since I've been in beer, basically 9 years. That was the introduction to you. And it's always inspired, your kind of curiosity has always inspired me of flavor and matching drinks with flavor and food. And where does that curiosity come from? And like, why do you want to share that? Why, and what motivates you to share that curiosity?
Well, I guess I've always approached drinks as a foodie. I mean, I've not. I kind of started in drink really through wine rather than with beer, but I'm just interested in every kind of drink. I mean, I don't regard, like wine being on some pedestal and everything else being kind of another drink. I mean, I think, all drinks are interesting, and beer is particularly interesting because it offers things to food that wine doesn't. It doesn't have the acidity of wine, but it has bitterness, and it has massive range of flavor. Sometimes it has sweetness, and it can be kind of very light and crisp, and it can be very dark and rich. So it's probably the most varied drink, I think. And for me, just I always think about a drink as kind of like, well, what can I eat with this? Because that's how most people, I mean, sometimes people just sit down and drink and, don't eat with it. But most of us, if we're enjoying a drink, or certainly if we're buying a premium drink, we want something to nibble at the very least alongside. And it's always intrigued me, like, why, just as you do when you cook, you're in the kitchen and you think, well, this is really interesting. This goes with this. I think the food and drink matching is just like that. You think, well, if we got these flavors, what kind of drink would work? So it's kind of my approach to drink is thinking like a cook. And I think I like this approach because it makes, drinks that appear complex more approachable to people. A lot of people are really nervous that they lack knowledge of the drinks world, whether it's wine, particularly applies to wine, or beer, or kind of whiskey or anything. They kind of think, well, I don't know enough. And I generally say, well, why do you worry about this? Nobody ever goes around worrying they don't know enough about cheese. How complex is the world of cheese? It's massively complex. Nobody worries about it. They just think, this is interesting. I like this cheese. I don't like this cheese so much. Oh, this is an amazing combination. So I think it basically makes drinks more approachable, it enables people to kind of own them a bit without having encyclopedic knowledge.
It's brilliant. Thank you for sharing it. And and I hope it's made other people as curious as you, as it inspires me to do. So in what this is one reason why both Andrew and myself thought of, let's see if Fiona wants to have a conversation and have a taste of this new beer online in front of everybody, if she's up for it, was also just because of that you've never just been about wine or just been about a drink. It's always together, just like you just said, and that's kind of that's a driving factor for both Andrew and myself. I was a chef before a brewer, and I found it a natural evolution to get into brewing, because brewing is very much cooking. You just you have 4 basic ingredients and you follow a recipe to the T with good ingredients, and then you allow it to kind of like sourdough culture and baking, you allow it to rise and create the environment for the yeast to do its thing, and then you intervene and you end up baking the bread or fermenting or packaging the beer, and then you have something amazing if you follow those steps. And once you gather
some really, really innovative beers. I mean, I can remember there was a beer that tasted of, I don't know if still do it, like a beer that tasted of kind of shellfish bisque, a seafood beer.
Yeah.
It was a mushroom beer at one stage. I mean, like you've made some wacky beers.
We have, yes. And that's where, you understand those principles and those ingredients and those process. You understand those enough so that then you can start breaking those rules and adding in new flavors or once, you can follow kind of most of the rules or all of the rules some of the time. And then you can start becoming creative and intentional, not just happenstance to create something, which we've definitely done a lot of, made a lot of beers kind of by happenstance and experimentation and just trial and error. And that's a lot of how we got to the beer we have now. But we kind of took a lot of those trial and errors and took the successes and added them into what we feel is a great beer.
This is different. I mean, to me, this is a kind of, really lovely crowd pleasing beer, but not in a kind of, not in a bland way at all. It's got loads of personality, but it's just really, really Moorish. It's got this incredible citrusy character. Because when I was first tasting it, I think, I think I'll pick up a bit of lemon, bit of grapefruit, and then now I'm sitting here with it. I'm getting some orange and tangerine on it, and it's just really it's really fresh, which actually I think is the key to the fact that it will go with lots of kinds of food. I mean, it could handle spice. I think it would be really good with curries, and people think you should drink flavorless beer with curry, but I absolutely don't agree. You need a beer with flavor of its own to handle it. Go with fish, I think, really nicely.
Yeah. So within the wild IPA, for us to kind of intentionally craft it to go well with a wide range of flavors and palates, cuisines, I kind of was contemplating on how to talk about this, and I think I've come to I looked at all the ingredients and process, because those are kind of the levers that we can play with as brewers, and in the malt and just designing kind of a beer to be robust enough to stand up against sauces or food or heavier dishes. It's got to be relatively strong, 5.2% alcohol, and what that also means is that in order to get to that high of alcohol, we need to put more malt in. So if you just think of a beer that has higher alcohol, is kind of like cooking with butter. It's going to be more flavorful. It's going to be more satisfying if all the other factors are good. It's going to be kind of more satisfying to your taste buds and to the aroma. So So kind of getting the alcohol high enough to kind of hit those marks, but not too high to ward people off. And so it can still be kind of an everyday drink. But then, and in those malt selections, there's one in there particularly called aromatic malt, where we kind of get some hints of raisins or kind of softer fruit in the background from the malt selection. And then in the what was I saying? Another key part to beer is the bitterness. So often in beer it can be really bitter, and that can just stop the flavor combination. I don't know if you found that with some of the modern beers in these days and age, or Fiona, as far as being too bitter to pair with too many different things.
The main problem I find with some modern, particularly high alcohol beers, is actually an almost cloying sweetness. I mean, it's just too much. It's rather like you get in wine, you get like a red wine that's got a lot of ripe sweet fruit and a lot of oak, and there's just too much going on. I mean, I think a beverage should be refreshing. You know, it should actually, and that's one of the things that beer does so well. It's just every time you have a bite and then you have a sip, it kind of really refreshes your palate. And so if you go for those kind of really high alcohol beers, which are kind of fine for a late night beer, but they're not so good for a kind of, to carry you through a meal and lots of different flavors. You really need this refreshing quality. And I think this is, it's not always there in modern IPAs. Sometimes they're just too much. And this is kind of like, it's really nicely balanced. You didn't pay me to say this, by the way.
No, I did not. No, that was, thank you. No, definitely not. We were just having our fingers crossed that you would get it, that you would get what we were trying to do here, and hopefully executed well.
I'm also just sitting here thinking, because I do think about foodie things, I'm kind of thinking, really pork would be lovely with it. And I think on your website I spotted porchetta, and that would be amazing. But also just like some really great belly pork with lots of crackling. That would be so nice with this.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of those I think of with food matching with liquid, and I'll tell you what my kind of simple three steps are, and you can tell me what you think, Fiona. But it was, you kind of have either kind of contrasting character or complementing kind of comparable character, like they're equally the same intensity, kind of comparable, or I like to think of the really special ones are ones where it's like a new creation of flavor. It's like you get both of the items in your mouth at the same time, kind of either a bit of cheese and a bit of wine, or a bit of cheese and a bit of beer, like tonight, and there's a new character that kind of evolves. Not just a match, but and I get that with Ninkasi and Westcombe cheddar. That's flavor like creation to me, not just a flavor match. So those are the three things that I kind of really think about when I think of, well, what beer or what wine or what drink will go well with this dish. Is do I want to contrast it? So like belly pork, that bit of acid and carbonation and bitterness that's in here, or more Westcombe cheddar. I kind of think it's on par with each other. The intensities are there.
Yeah, I think it is with the cheddar. I mean, I think so we got these two cheeses. The Caerphilly I thought was a really, because I expected the cheddar to go. I was kind of thinking, cheddar and IPA generally works really, really well, because there's a little touch often in a bitterness in a mature cheddar, and then it plays nicely against the bitterness of the hops. So I was kind of expecting that to work, and it does. But the Caerphilly is interesting because it's a more delicate cheese, and it's light and crumbly, a little bit citrusy itself, and actually it brings out a slightly different character in the in the beer, and the citrus of the beer, I think, works really, really nicely with the Caerphilly. I think it, and also I actually happen to have here, just because I dug it out of the fridge, some because I thought actually with these flavors in the beer, maybe you could put some kind of a chutney or a kind of preserve with the cheese. And so I've got this thing called, which I just happen to have, called the Barnstorming Brandy and Pear, and it's made by Rosebud Preserves. And so basically it's kind of like a pear compote, slightly spicy pear compote, and that with the Caerphilly is awesome. So you've got like the Caerphilly being, you know, really quite a gentle cheese, and the lovely citrus of the beer, and then this sort of slightly spicy pear note, and it kind of like just kind of plays against fruitiness of the beer. It's a great combination.
We've actually got Sam he's doing his own tasting with wild IPA, dessert figs, Westcombe ricotta, and honey.
Oh, yum.
So along those lines, kind of that fruity, sweeter, not really getting the tangy character that you would probably get with your chutney, but definitely the sweet, excuse me. And also, Fiona, we've got a couple of people saying hi that you might not have seen because
I can see it. Actually, I couldn't see it on the phone earlier, but I can see the.
Oh, you can. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yep. And then also just a little plug for the Buccaneer at Studland Bay. That's what it was.
Oh, wow.
It's Studland.
Yeah. No, I'm very envious of the Buccaneer at Studland Bay. I bet you're out this weekend. It looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to get back. And, yeah. But something that I noticed when having it with the Caerphilly was it almost the citrusy and almost kind of dry character of the Caerphilly matched really nicely with the spicier, peppery notes from the beer. Because this beer is fermented with, so we use 2 different yeasts in the primary fermentation, that's the magic, right? So as brewers, we make wort, and that's sweet, bitter liquid made from barley and wheat in this case. But yeast is what makes beer, and the yeast is the magical part. That's the bit where we create this environment and this playground to let these little organisms have fun and have their own way. And so we put in 2 different yeast strains, which is not typical. It's not abnormal, but it's not typical for a brewery to do that on one of their kind of core main beers. And those 2 yeast strains give one of which gives a big fruity character, and then one gives a much spicier note. And it's actually, one is a beer yeast and one is a red wine yeast. And that's where you get some of the black pepper notes and that kind of character. I've got my cat meowing in the back. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But
it's not kids, it's cats, isn't it?
Yeah.
These are
we have 2 more kids or two kids in the other room, so I'm sure they'll come barging in as well. So yeah, that really, I really noted that kind of flavor combination for me. As well, there's a 3rd yeast in this beer, and that yeast is a journalist, beer journalist named Johnny Garrett. He named this yeast for us as the kamikaze yeast. We put this yeast in for the purpose of it to kind of spring alive and then basically die. And as the yeast dies, it gives off some manoproteins, which actually give the beer kind of a fuller body, a richer, kind of more unctuous type kind of character. So I really like dry beer. And I don't know. I like that character, but it can be too aggressive as an everyday, and kind of like you said, Fiona, kind of this is a every person type beer. It's not divisive like the beers we have been making.
I'm not a great fan, as you know, but this is like, you could pour this for anyone and they'd be really happy, I think. They're kind of like, oh, that's really nice beer. And you just it's very Moorish. You just kind of want to carry on drinking it. I think your sort of comparison with butter is interesting. I mean, because that's, this kind of palate coating aspect of food and drink is really interesting, and cheese is cheese is quite fatty. I mean, cheese is kind of really milk fat, isn't it? So you're dealing with a fatty food, and I think that's one of the reasons why beer works so well. So if we would, I'm sorry, can I keep on popping back to wine because it's quite an interesting comparison. So if we were sitting here drinking Pinot Grigio, for example, it just wouldn't work terribly well because, it's too light and it's too high in acid. It's not weight for weight, kind of like a similar kind of combination. So, here you've got these, very good farmhouse cheeses, rich cheeses, which are kind of palate coating. And, the beer comes along and just sort of cleans the palate like a bite into a fruit, because I always sort of think cider too works this way. Like when you're enjoying cheese and you often, you have chutney, you have a fresh fruit, and it's lovely, just like that crunch and that freshness, and you get that from good beer, you get that from good cider. It's just a joy.
Wow. Thank you for that. Yeah, it does. It really is.
I kind of now want to try it with other things. Actually, I'm absolutely craving a takeaway now. I'm kind of thinking, I would love a really good curry with this. Maybe a kind of like I'm thinking, maybe something Southern Indian, maybe slightly sort of creamy, coconutty, spicy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you played around with?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that. I haven't played around with kind of the creamier coconutty side of things yet. That's just those are definitely my kind of flavors.
Or kind of like I was just thinking, big fat prawns, sort of lovely, on the grill.
I would highly recommend that. I have played around with big prawns, and my favorite pairing so far has been with like just not overcooked, but cooked oysters with a small amount of we used our barbecue sauce that we made. Andrew made it, and just a couple of drops because it can be really powerful. And then a few drops of some homemade fermented hot sauce on it. I was trying to let the oyster shine through and be its own flavor, but with the sweetness and the tanginess from that barbecue sauce, because it's quite it's got miso and kind of more oriental type spices going on in there.
I think we need the recipe for this. I think you're going to have to post that somewhere.
Super simple. There's like 3 ingredients. Just oysters, barbecue sauce, and no,
it's the barbecue sauce I want the recipe for it. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I think we could probably
the other thing you could do with, have you ever had oysters with like Vietnamese style with a kind of Asian type dressing?
Yes. Yeah.
With a little bit of chili and some lime and coriander and things. I don't know whether you ever went to the restaurant Wallfish in Bristol. And they've moved down to Dorset now. But they used to do these Vietnamese oysters, deep fried with a kind of Vietnamese type dressing with it. That would be really good.
Yeah. So what I think it is about the oyster that I really like is that really rich umami character. So something that's kind of meaty and that kind of mouth coating, that big character. I'm definitely a seafood kind of person, more than a beef kind of person, and that. So I use miso and soy sauce quite a lot in my cooking, and I find it pairs really well. And anything that, so when going to more vegetarian kind of cooking, like a fermented pickle, really match and kind of bring out and highlight some of those mixed fermentation flavors and some of the character in there. That's the other.
Would it handle kimchi, do you think, or would that be too strong?
I think so. Maybe if you were only eating kimchi as a snack, maybe a bit too strong, perhaps. But if it was
cheese toasty with Westcombe cheddar, maybe.
Ooh,
that'd be quite.
That would be fun. That would be really fun.
I mean, there is such a thing as a kimchi cheese toasty. So
I've not had that. I think I might have to get making some fresh kimchi to try that one.
I think so. We should.
So maybe we should dig in. Did you try it with the cheddar? Did we talk about that already?
No, I've been enjoying it with cheddar, actually. I've just been nibbling away while we've been chatting, and yeah, it's a really lovely, deep, mellow cheddar. And so, one of the things I think it's worth pointing out is that actually when you eat, I mean, it's like blindingly obvious. When we do these kind of tastings online or anywhere else, you're always kind of concentrating on one element, like you're kind of nibbling the cheese or kind of that. And in real life, there's always bread or crackers or kind of flatbread or, maybe a fruit compote or something like that. And I think it's quite a useful tip that if you are finding that the food you've got in mind isn't completely going with the drink you've got to hand, bring in some of these other elements. You can. I'm just trying. Sorry, I'm going to keep on going back to wine because it's useful kind of parallel. There's if you have sheep's cheese in southwest of France, they'll often serve it with a kind of cherry compote, and it goes with the deep red wines there. So here, I've got a pear compote type of thing, but if I pears and apples and sort of that kind of register of things, maybe a bit of pickle that we've been talking about, pickles. All of these kind of like will really chime in with that.
Yeah.
And so kind of like if you think, for example, this is a nicely balanced cheese. If you had a stronger cheddar, because sometimes cheddars are very, very strong, just bring in the bread, bring in the crackers, bring in the pickles and things, and it'll all kind of balance itself out. It's kind of like, we said before, it's like cooking. It's like just making things work on the plate by just pulling in different little things. Just kind of, go to the fridge, go to the store cup and see if you've got something. And just think, it needs something, just go and find it.
Or a little aroma of this. Yeah. And then you're making me think about just a future cheese and beer video that tasting that I know that we will do, and making me start thinking of, I wonder if we can find a chutney company, a small one who we can highlight some amazing character they're giving to do just that, to kind of bring that whole round table of flavor.
Yeah, because they could actually bring in they could make a small batch of something.
Yeah. And
you could just say, like, we've got this cheese and we've got our beer, and we've got in mind that actually we just need this third element. Yeah. For complete perfection.
Yeah. And so, well, maybe we'll have to put our heads together and come up with a more diverse tasting box and experience in the future or something. Do that more of a joint effort, because this one we definitely asked you at the last minute, and thank you so much.
Oh no, it's been really good fun. any excuse just to sit and eat cheese and drink beer. I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah. Well, thank you. But Fiona, I have one of your newer books right behind me.
Mm.
I just wanting to do because, like I said at the beginning, your work is definitely inspiring to me because you kind of cross different channels of communication and how to share it and different types of flavors and drinks. It's not just wine. It's not just beer. It's not just food. It's actually just all flavor. And
so, in case anyone didn't see what that was, we better tell them. It's called How to Drink Without Drinking. It's a book about alcohol-free drinks, actually. And so would be useful for your wild and free pairing.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Which, in case you guys are not familiar with it, they also make a really, really good couple of alcohol-free drinks. Are you still making those?
Yes, we have one available now, and that's the citrus one, and then the berry one. Very, very creative names: citrus and berry. The citrus
on the tin, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it says on the tin. They're 0.5% alcohol or lower, and they have they're a bit more adult-like in balance of acidity and sweetness. There's no added sugar. The sugar is there. The sugar that is there, is just natural fruit sugars. So the citrus one is yuzu and calamansi, along with some hops in there. And just in the aroma of it. And then the berry one is really the most complex, I'd say, with blackberries and raspberry. But we use our own imperial stout vinegar to kind of bring this real amazing third dimension to it. So that's the one.
I think that they're some of the nicest alcohol-free drinks I've tasted. So they're really good.
Oh wow! Thank you, thank you. We worked really hard on those, but
so bring back the berry one because I like that particularly.
Yeah, we will. We definitely will. We're working on it. It's been a little bit of a monster to master the fermentability of it because it's got that homemade vinegar. It actually continues to ferment, so we need to tame that beast a little bit more so it doesn't get too alcoholic or too fizzy, basically. So it will be coming back in the new year probably, but
good.
Kind of picking and choose the battles. So but where can we find some of your works going forward, Fiona?
So I mean that's the most recent book. You can find me in The Guardian on Saturdays or online. And I have a website called matchingfoodandwine.com, which is, as the title suggests, the title suggests it's all about wine, but actually it's about every kind of drink. So, a bit about beer, a bit about wine, whiskey, gin, whatever.
Definitely some spirits in there as well. But I think that's just about it for the night for me. I've got a couple of announcements about our company or the web shop and stuff like that for the public. But Fiona, did you have anything else you wanted to add or share? Or
no, this was just very nice to hang out with you as always. And congratulations.
It was really nice. And then I've seen a couple of people asking about the dog. Where's the dog? So hopefully Jen is watching, my wife, and she can bring it in.
Oh yeah, I want to see the dog.
We want to see the dog. So for everybody else who's watching, we just picked up a brand new puppy for our family today, and it's the cutest thing in the world, obviously. But hopefully she's watching and she can come in and bring the puppy in. And that definitely just got me distracted off the point. Oh yes. Sorry, I was thinking about the puppy.
Housekeeping announcements, I think.
Yeah, and that was just this weekend. I don't think we've ever really done this too much, but we're doing a 15% off all purchases on our website. and that's at the same time as launching 2 really quite special beers. One is our annual release of Beyond Modus. So this is Beyond Modus 7. And that's kind of the celebration of Modus Operandi, which is our Flemish red ale that's aged in oak barrels. But this one has 1-year-old cherries in it that we collected from Kent and Somerset. So that's Beyond Modus 7. You can bring it in, babe. Oh, here she comes. As well as another new beer called Mon Cherry. And Mon Cherry is the same cherry beer that was used in Beyond Modus, but this one was dry hopped with some brand new hops.
Oh my goodness. Insanely cute.
This is Mochi.
Oh, isn't she gorgeous?
She is really sleepy. Yeah.
Oh.
She is really sleepy. So.
I mean, there's nothing more to say now, really, is there?
I don't think there is, really. I don't think so. All right. So that's Mochi. Little tricolor Old English Bulldog.
Oh,
So there's launch of those 2 new beers. There's the 15% off on the online shop. And also the other big news was that we just opened our own physical bottle shop, but it is in Pill in Somerset. So for all the locals around here, or those that might want to take a journey down from Bristol, you can come down and visit the space. It's not at the brewery, and I actually do have a postcode, but you can find out the information on our website. The postcode is BA4 6TA. And those are the announcements. But thanks for sticking with that, Fiona. And thank you, everybody.
Well, I had to see the puppy. Come on.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. And everybody have a great weekend.
You too. Bye all.
Bye.